What if I told you that the United States is seriously discussing tariffs as high as 500% on some of the world's largest economies? Not 50%, not 100%, 500%. This single number has rattled financial markets, alarmed diplomats, and sparked confusion across headlines worldwide. But what exactly is this 500% tariff everyone is talking about? Is it real? Who is it aimed at? And could it actually reshape global trade? Today, we're breaking it all down, fact by fact, without hype, to understand what's really happening behind one of the most extreme trade threats in modern history. Chapter 1: Where did the 500% number come from? The idea of a 500% tariff comes from a proposed piece of US legislation known as the Sanctioning Russia Act of 2025. This bill has bipartisan backing in the US Senate and has publicly received support from President Donald Trump. Its goal is not traditional trade protection, it is geopolitical pressure. Specifically, the bill would authorize the US government to impose extraordinarily high tariffs, up to 500%, on countries that continue to buy Russian energy products, including oil, gas, and uranium. In other words, this is not about steel, cars, or electronics. It's about punishing countries that help keep Russian energy revenues alive during the Ukraine war. That's what makes this proposal so unusual and so controversial. Chapter 2: Why target Russian oil? To understand this, we need to rewind to 2022. After Russia invaded Ukraine, the US and its allies imposed sweeping sanctions to choke off Moscow's ability to fund the war. Energy exports were supposed to be a key pressure point. But something unexpected happened. Russia didn't stop selling oil. Instead, it redirected exports. Countries like India and China began buying massive volumes of discounted Russian crude, often refining it and selling fuel products onward to global markets. From Washington's perspective, this undermined the entire sanctions strategy. So the logic behind the bill is simple and brutal. If you won't stop buying Russian energy voluntarily, the US will make it economically unbearable for you to trade with America. Chapter 3: Who is in the CRSSHAIS? While the bill doesn't name countries explicitly, lawmakers and analysts are very clear about who would be affected. India. For India, this story isn't abstract geopolitics, it's a very real balancing act. Since 2022, Russian oil has quietly become a cornerstone of India's energy strategy. Cheap crude helped India keep fuel prices stable, control inflation, and protect economic growth at a time when global energy markets were in chaos. Refineries adapted, trade routes shifted, and what began as a temporary adjustment slowly turned into a structural dependence. Now, the proposed 500% US tariffs threaten to turn that economic calculation upside down. India's exports to the United States, from textiles and pharmaceuticals to auto components and IT-linked manufacturing, rely heavily on price competitiveness. A tariff even a fraction of 500% would effectively price Indian goods out of the US market overnight. For exporters, it wouldn't be a slowdown, it would be a sudden stop. But the impact goes beyond trade numbers. Strategically, India finds itself caught between two imperatives. On one side is energy security and strategic autonomy, the long-standing principle that India will not let foreign powers dictate its core economic choices. On the other is its growing partnership with the US, spanning defense cooperation, technology transfers, and its role in balancing China in the Indo-Pacific. Walking away from Russian oil isn't simple. Alternative suppliers cost more, logistics are complex, and higher energy prices ripple through the economy, hitting consumers first. Yet resisting US pressure risks trade retaliation, investor uncertainty, and diplomatic strain with one of India's most important global partners. This is why New Delhi's response has been careful, firm, but restrained. India has emphasized that its oil purchases comply with international law, that they serve domestic needs, and that decisions are made in India's national interest, not as political endorsements. In short, for India, the 500% tariff threat isn't just about tariffs. It's a test of how much economic independence a rising power can realistically maintain in a world where trade is increasingly weaponized. And how India navigates this moment may shape not just its energy policy, but its global posture for years to come. China remains Russia's biggest energy customer and is already engaged in a long-running trade and technology conflict with the US. Brazil has also been cited as a buyer of Russian fuel products and fertilizers. These are not minor economies. They are key global players, and in India's case, a strategic US partner. Chapter 4: Is this actually law? This is a crucial point. No 500% tariffs are not currently in force. The bill must still pass both chambers of Congress, be signed into law, be implemented by the executive branch. Even if it becomes law, tariffs would not be automatic. The president would have discretion over whether, when, and how aggressively they're applied. In other words, this is a loaded weapon on the table, not one that has already been fired. But markets and governments don't wait for bullets, they react to intent. Chapter 5: Why 500% is almost unheard of. To put this in perspective, typical US tariffs range from 2% to 25%. Even aggressive trade war tariffs rarely exceed 50%. A 500% tariff would make most goods completely unsellable. At that level, the tariff is no longer a tax, it's effectively a trade ban disguised as a tariff. This also raises serious questions under World Trade Organization rules, which generally prohibit punitive tariffs unrelated to trade disputes. However, the US could argue this falls under national security exceptions, which are notoriously broad and difficult to challenge. Chapter 6: Why markets are already reacting. Even without being enacted, the threat alone has consequences. In early market reactions, export-oriented stocks in India dropped sharply. Energy traders began reassessing long-term supply chains. Multinational firms started pricing in political risk. Because here's the reality. A 500% tariff doesn't need to happen to be powerful. It just needs to be credible. Companies plan years ahead. Uncertainty alone can shift investment away from affected countries. Chapter 7: The Diplomatic Dilemma. 9/15/10/30. This puts countries like India in a difficult position. On one side, cheap Russian oil helps control inflation. Energy security is a domestic political priority. On the other, the US is a key defense and technology partner. Losing access to American markets would be costly. India has repeatedly stated that its energy purchases are driven by national interest, not geopolitical alignment. China, meanwhile, has framed similar US measures as economic coercion and has shown little sign of changing course. This is where economics ends and geopolitics begins. Chapter 8: Is this really about Russia? Many analysts believe Russia is only part of the story. The deeper message is about global power. The US is signaling that access to its market is conditional. Neutrality in major conflicts has a price. Economic tools are now primary weapons. This reflects a broader shift towards sanctions-driven diplomacy, where trade policy is used to enforce geopolitical alignment. Conclusion: what happens next? So where does this leave us? The 500% tariff proposal is not yet law, not guaranteed, but very real as a strategic threat. Whether it is enacted or quietly scaled back, it already tells us something important. In today's world, trade, energy, and geopolitics are inseparable. And the era of neutral economics may be coming to an end. Outro. If you found this breakdown helpful, consider liking the video, subscribing, and sharing your thoughts in the comments. Do you think tariffs like these are necessary pressure or dangerous escalation? I'll see you in the next one. Subscribe to this channel to always stay updated.